Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. Sorry about that. Morning. Morning. Hope y'all are having a great day so far. I hope you're having a great day, big dangly things. Just trying a couple of new things here. Alright. We do have quite the amount of headlines to go through. So I think we should get started. Howdy. Hey, Dakapolion, how's it going? Howdy. Is there a solid list of headline sources I should be looking at every morning? What's your process on finding those? Usually what I do is I just use the Google News section, and I just filter out all the articles that are interesting from all different types of news outlets, and I just pick the ones that I think that are important to highlight. So I just use like Google News and then filter that out by whatever articles I think are interesting, or if I find something like too egregious to ignore, I'll bring that one on. So it's usually just I used to use an app called News Voice. Is it News Voice? Ah man, I can't remember now because it's not available. I used to have an app that was similar in the sense that it brought you all different types of articles from all different types of news outlets. So you would just kind of like scroll through and like look at all the different variations of articles, and that's how I would make it. I would make the choice. Howdy. The California recall results were called, and Larry Elder conceded. Yeah, that's true. Kind of like ground news. Yes, something to that effect. Oh shoot, there was another thing that I needed to bring up. Yeah, there is a. It's something like that. I just kind of like create a different like variation, or at least I look through all articles, and pick the interesting ones. Which I almost forgot. Hey Alio, how's it going? I think Ground News is just like a similar app, right? Where it just kind of puts you a whole bunch of headlines in front of you, and you kind of just shift through them. Alright folks, we've got a few headlines to go through, and then more IPCC report. Okie dokie. So the first and foremost, I guess breaking pertinent news. California Governor Gavin Newsom does indeed, morning, does indeed defeat the recall election. Presumably this was the obvious outcome. Presumably this was according to from what I understand it now, looking back on it, this was inevitable. I thought there was a potential for Gavin Newsom to be in trouble previously, but now looking back on it, hindsight 2020. Yeah, hindsight is 2020. It seems like this was the inevitable outcome. I was looking at some exit polls and just general statistics, and it seems like the registered Democrat, the registered Democratic voters just completely just outnumber any type of any Republican amount of registered voters. So they would have to overcome I think like 2-to-1 ratio. But it also gives a media bias report with each article, and that's why I like it. Yeah, that's the app that I used to have. It was very similar to that because it filters it out by different or at least it tries to give you the different biases. I'm glad he didn't try to be a jerk about election integrity, as he hinted to. It's nice to see politicians just be reasonable when they lose. Well, let's just say that he didn't continue to press the issue. If we want to be as charitable as possible, let's just say that he, if you're speaking about Larry Elder, let's just say that he didn't continue to press the matter. Newsom rang the alarm bells constantly. That's why there was such a high voter turnout. Yeah, I mean, that's how you win, presumably. Presumably, that's how you win elections. Well, right now we are in a state of who gets their base out in a higher percentage, generally speaking, will be the one to win. However, in California, I mean, it's just overwhelmingly Democratic from what I saw. I mean, like, even just looking at the presidential race, Biden won that by 30 plus points, didn't he? I think he won like plus 30 something. It's a very, very Democratic place. So I don't know. I have a feeling that this was going to be inevitable. But yes, he did, ring the alarm bells, and he did go out there and campaign, and he did motivate his base enough. You have an issue with being walled off in your own echo chamber. Social media just feeds you the things you already show an interest of. So there's many people who are pushed into biases that feeds the aggressive behaviors. I think what you mean is like pipelines, which can happen, but I don't think that I live necessarily in an echo chamber. I don't think that I live in an echo chamber because I do hang out in other channels, and I do try to see what is going on the other side, especially if it's egregious enough for me to pay attention to. So yeah, I mean, I do occasionally subject myself to, the Tucker Carlsons and whatnot, just to get an idea of what's going on. I think Larry Elder talks about election integrity to rally its base and keep Republican support. That's if that's his thought process, what does that say about the Republican Party? I don't think that's a good rally call, because if all you're going to do is If all you're going to do every time you have like a potential of losing is say, well, that's not possible, it must be rigged. That's not very good. That's not very good, especially without any type of evidence whatsoever. I mean, like, we went over this yesterday. We actually went to his campaign site, which linked to another site that looked very oddly familiar. I'm convinced that it's probably him who did it as well, attempting to kind of like ferment this idea of like, maybe this election isn't to be trusted, or maybe we should do an audit, or whatever the implication was. And it's like, really? Is that it? This is so dangerous. This is so dangerous, especially without any type of evidence behind it. Just vague notions of, oh, I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I'm just asking questions, bro. I mean, I heard Trump called it rigged already. I suspect someone like him would do so. Hey, Darknet. I mean, he could call it rigged all he wants. I don't think that this is going to go any further than that. I mean, you can't overcome a 30 something margin. It's just not happening. I got that app that shows you top stories and weather reporting leans left or right. Yes, I used to have something like that. The GOP managers of our elections are reality TV nonsense. Yeah, and it's so dangerous. You can't just make these massive claims of. You can't just make these massive claims, and just to think about it like in a logical sense. You can't just make these massive claims without a single drop of evidence. Not even an example. Not even an example. No evidence. Not even a single anecdote, just vague notions of like, whoa, I don't know, man. I think this might be shenanigans or something like that. If the results were close, this would be a much different situation. I agree. That's why it's so important. That's why I think it's so important to turn out in massive numbers to avoid this. I mean, like, that was the point of the 2020 election, to get out as many people as possible, because we knew what Donald Trump was going to do, and it was necessary to try to like make sure that we close off that option. Has Larry Elder admitted that the recall voting was not biased and he could not have won? I think he conceded. That's about it. After the 2016 and 2010 precedents and the context of fraud with fake statements, so I fear this trend will continue till one party buckles the most. I mean, like, it's clear that these accusations are coming from one side, yeah? I hear Sidney Powell has been delivered a massive sanction for her behavior. If so, good. She's a lawyer, isn't she? She should be... Has she been disbarred yet? Like, it's one thing to cry about, like, you losing, it's one thing to cry about, like, you losing and you make, like, you make a stink about it, like, whatever. And it's another thing to continue. This is 9 months in. Continue to talk about rigged elections. I don't know, dude. It seems like the people who support this narrative or who support Trump want to buckle this country. So, the TLDR, yeah, it seems like Gavin Newsom saved himself, and it was inevitable. There's just the numbers, just the sheer numbers just the sheer numbers of registered Democratic voters, and the turnout was enough. Yeah, it's been almost a year. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine losing this recall vote, and then you have like someone like Larry Elder winning a governorship with a minority, a very, very small minority of the votes. UFCW, Kentucky distillery workers strike to stop healthcare price hikes, protect good Kentucky jobs. So we have a story about a strike. The GOP is delivering so many huge own goals. Yeah, and I suspect that, I hope it continues, but I don't know. Never underestimate the Democratic Party's ability to just completely screw the pooch. Never underestimate the Democratic Party's ability to take this easy W and then turn it around. Still part of GOP, but I'd like to see the Libertarian candidates get serious and American Solidarity Party candidates get noticed. I didn't even know that was a party. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the Libertarian Party. I think is the biggest third party, but not happening. It's not happening. Boston mayoral race between 2 women, 1 Asian. It's interesting. I don't know who's competing in the Boston mayoral race. That's too zoomed in for me. The United Food and Commercial Workers, a union of over 25,000 Kentucky essential workers statewide, announced the 420 Heaven Hill distillery workers are now on strike at the company's main facility in Bardstown to stop the proposed 5-year contract. 5-year contract that removes a cap on health insurance premium increases that reduce take-home pay, cut overtime, and drastically change work schedules, which makes it harder for employees to support and care for their families, even as Heaven Hill reports $500 million in annual revenue. Nice. Thank you for covering the strike. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. The Libertarian Party is the fastest growing party, while the GOP is the fastest shrinking party. Yeah, I still don't think that it's enough. I mean, I think all Republicans who don't agree with the I think that all of the Republicans who don't agree with all the shenanigans should just be libertarians. Simply because I know that yeah, it's not true that is it not true that the far left is destroying the Dems' winning ways? Is it though? Is it though? I turned your attention. Is it though? If it's the more far left who is destroying the Dems winning getting W's, why is it that it's President Joe Manchin and people like Kirsten Sinema, the ones who are torpedoing single-handedly very, very good, necessary, popular legislation? Why is it them? Why is it President Joe Manchin? Workers do need their voices heard. Detroit awful, delusional, failed, resigned police chief is running for governor and he was trending on Twitter for something. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, like, these aren't even centrists. These are conservatives. These are conservatives. Joe Manchin is a conservative. He's just on the Democratic Party. That's it. Manchin confirmed he is a hard no on supporting the package during an interview. Like, then, so yeah, it's not the left wing of the Democratic Party currently. UFCW Local 23D is the union for Heaven Hill Bardstown workers and has been in negotiations with the company for 6 months to reach an agreement for these Kentucky workers. In July 2021, the union called for a federal mediator to join the process to help advance talks with the company. On September 9th, Heaven Hill workers voted voted on the company's latest proposal, and 96% of the workers rejected the contract proposal, and the strike began September 11 at midnight. It has been nearly 2 weeks since the company left the negotiation table. Wow. Heavenly Hill Distillery workers have been on the front lines of this pandemic since it began and helped produce the hand sanitizers that kept Kentucky doctors, nurses, and so many other first responders safe when COVID was first ripped through our communities. When so many businesses shut down, Heaven Hill essential workers stepped up, helping to support our families and keep the company and our local economy strong through the crisis. Healthcare price hikes that reduce take-home pay, cuts to overtime, drastic scheduling changes are no way to recognize the incredible service of these Kentucky essential workers. True, but this is exactly what Heaven Hill is trying to do with this contract. How can a company making $500 million a year justify making healthcare more expensive for essential workers in the middle of a pandemic? Not only that, what is the justification of raising prices for healthcare? Are they going to magically get like better healthcare? No. They're just raising the prices. Is it going to be followed up by some type of increase in benefits because you're paying more? No. Gotta go, great stream. Keep up the great content. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate that. Mansion deserves. Hey, anarchist. Why can't we just pretend they're Republicans and move on? Well, I mean, they're in the Democratic Party. They're just conservative. These are different. These are not mutually exclusive, I should say. You can be a Democratic. You can be in the Democratic Party and have conservative views. That's just the case with Joe Manchin. Although, I would say, if you are going to be a part of the Democratic Party, and there's some crucial legislation, and I'm just speaking from like the electoral side, from like the pragmatic side, from the electoral strategy, speaking from pragmatism, if you are in the Democratic Party, your majority is incredibly thin. You literally have a 50-50 split. The midterms are coming up. You need to deliver. So, if you want your party to stay in power, then you would do everything in your purview to try to get good legislation out there, and back your party to try to attempt to get stuff done. That's not what's happening here. You know what is happening? It's very simple. It's ExxonMobil capitalizing on its return on investment. That's what it is. Not Democratic or Republican or whatever. It's simple. It's ExxonMobil getting its return on investment. That's it. That's all it is. Before buying bourbon, check who makes it. True. We can't even get healthcare as a human right, bro. True. That is incredibly frustrating. Imagine thinking that, like, imagine having to make the argument having to make the argument that, like, healthcare shouldn't be a thing. Imagine rationalizing not having healthcare. I mean, you have to go through a lot of you have to go through like Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to unironically justify that. How can a company making $500 million a year justify making healthcare more expensive for essential workers in the middle of a pandemic? What kind of message does it send when a family-owned company is pushing scheduling changes and makes it harder for workers to support and care for their own families? Kentucky families have been working at Heaven Hill and proudly serving our communities for generations. They want to ensure that these continue to be good jobs and that their kids and grandkids can count on, so their families can continue this proud tradition of making the high-quality Kentucky bourbon that has powered our economy for decades. Heaven Hill has a responsibility to do right by these Kentucky essential workers, and we're urging the company to step up and provide the strong contract they have earned and deserved. True. UFCW has been the leading voice for Kentucky essential workers in distilleries, grocery stores, meatpacking plants, and so many other frontline businesses that have been impacted by ongoing COVID pandemic. Heaven Hill Kentucky distillery workers represented by UFCW produce a wide range of products including Blackheart Rum, Black Velvet Canadian Whiskey, Christian Brothers vs. Brandy, Deep Eddy Vodka, Elijah Craig 12-year-old, Evan Williams Kentucky Black, Evan Williams Single Barrel, Georgia Moon Corn Whiskey, Henry McKenna Kentucky Hypnotic Liquor, Old Fitzgerald Kentucky, Two Fingers Tequila, and many more. Wow. In the latest data compiled, UFCW confirmed that among union's members nationwide, there have already been at least 483 worker deaths and at least 93,900 frontline workers infected or exposed. 198 grocery worker deaths, 43,900 grocery workers infected or exposed, 132 meatpacking worker deaths, 22,400 meatpacking workers infected or exposed, 67 food processing worker deaths, 13,100 food processing workers infected or exposed. Wow. UFCW is the largest private sector union in Kentucky, represents over 25,000 Kentucky workers statewide, and is part of a UFCW International, which represents 1.3 million professionals and their families in healthcare, grocery stores, meatpacking, food processing, retail shops, and other industries that serve the community in all 50 states, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Interesting. TLDR, this is why unions are incredibly important, because it is a way to balance that power imbalance. It is a way to even the playing field. That's right, no healthcare. Apparently we're having difficulty. We're having debates about whether or not we need infrastructure. The stimulus checks were crumbs at best. No minimum wage raise, as we curtsy our way into $7.25 as a federal minimum wage. Affordable housing, we didn't even get to that. I don't even think that has even been put on any type of bill as of yet on the floor. So yeah, clearly no indication as to no indication that they're willing to address some of these problems, and that will be their undoing in the 2022 midterms. Never underestimate the Democratic Party's ability to take easy W's into L's. That's basically what I was trying to say earlier. So many people are stuck in jobs just to keep their healthcare. True. It shouldn't be that way. One politician that turns those to yes will make it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it's if the Democratic Party really wanted to, instead of just like having this attitude of, well, we're gonna win because we're not, Republicans, that's a fatal mistake. That's a fatal mistake to think that they're just going to win by default because they're not the GOP. That's a mistake. 100%. And I think that because they have not really delivered, I mean, again, they have done, this administration has done some good things, but it's not really focusing on real root causes of problems that we're having that have been decades in the making, right? It's not, these problems aren't new. These problems have been around for quite some time. Healthcare? We've never had a scenario, to my knowledge, where we had a complete national universal healthcare system. We've never had it. These problems have existed for a very, very long time. Chai bureaucrat with a tier 1 subscription for 13 months. Poggers. Super poggers. So yeah, to my knowledge, I have not seen a scenario in this country where we had some type of universal healthcare system. It just never has happened. And here, the Democratic Party has the ability right now to at least put these things on the table. And yet, we're having debates. Yet, we're having people like Joe Manchin tell us that there'd be a complete and hard no on any climate initiatives and concerns about how we would go about initiating a 2-year community college tuition free. 2 years, not even like a bachelor's degree. We're having arguments about whether or not 2 years is a concern about how we're going to go about doing that. The most basic of basic things. We're having trouble getting people on board in terms of like Congress and the Senate. Meanwhile, these things, with generally speaking on public support, are incredibly popular. That's the frustrating part. A new poll came out that internationally and just in a general sense from different countries, the overwhelming majority of people support or are very, very concerned about climate change. The overwhelming majority of people, not just here, but in an international level as well, are concerned about climate change. And I saw another survey that says even the older boomer generation is beginning to shift from the minority to the majority in support of climate change initiatives here. It's not just the younger generation, and yet our representatives are not acting on it. The representatives, knowing this, because I'm sure they know. I'm sure they know. They've seen the reports. They know the IPCC reports have been. The technical summary is specifically designed for lawmakers and similar, right? For lawmakers and decision makers. That's what that technical summary is for. Oregon pays for college if you go immediately from high school to college. Nice. My 7-year-old grandpa is worried, and my 14-year-old sister is worried. All ages. Yeah, and it's beginning to shift because we see what's happening, and yet, again, our representatives are having a tough time figuring that one out. So just as a TLDR, here are the items that they produce. Meanwhile, they're on strike. Please keep this in mind, including Blackheart Rum, Black Velvet, Canadian Whiskey, Christian Brothers vs. Brandy, Deep Eddy Vodka, Elijah Craig 12-year-old, Evan Williams, Kentucky Black, Evan Williams Single Barrel, Georgia Mooncorn Whiskey, Henry McKenna, Kentucky, Hypnotic Liquor, Old Fitzgerald Kentucky, Two Fingers Tequila, and many more. Well, these are the brands that we know for sure. Just keep that in mind. That's right, the anarchist. Norway had an election and climate change was not the number one issue. And you know what happened? Labor and all the left-leaning factions made serious gains in that election in Norway because of climate change. That's right, Labor. Labor won, and I believe any other because I believe there's a lot of different factions. Even the Greens picked up like a seat or two. So all of these left factions gained grounds on climate change, on that issue because it is incredibly important. Germany's having an election coming up as a leader debate, and climate change was one of the top issues in that debate. Correct, because we're seeing it happen. I mean, after that massive flood, I suspect that opened up a lot of people's eyes in Germany. The United States climate change is what I don't know anything about that. It was a hoax by China or something. I don't know. It's really frustrating. Congress ignores climate change and takes money from lobbyists. Yeah, I guess the right term would be ignore, because it's not like they don't know. It's not like they don't know. I think Echo Lou is correct. I think it's more of a ignore. Yeah, and like I said earlier, the only person that won, the only people that won here is ExxonMobil. Congratulations. I hope that your return on investment with President Joe Manchin was worth it, and I hope you condemning the planet to these catastrophic norms, to these catastrophic new normals. I hope it was worth it. Don't they care about their children? Ha! They think that their money will get them out of it, or that they will have enough resources to weather it. But climate change isn't gonna care. Climate change isn't gonna care. Hold on, folks. Yeah, so they don't think they don't think that they're the ones that are going to have to deal with it. But climate change comes for all. Irrelevant. Maybe they buy them. Maybe what they can buy themselves is a little bit more time, but that's about it. It is true that the poor are the ones who are going to pay the price. Yeah, they're the working class, the poor, are the ones that are going to shoulder that brunt. But in the end, it's gonna come for everybody. Your $1 million mansion on the beach, your $1 million condo on the beach, is going to be irrelevant when it gets messed up by one good hurricane. Or as the coastlines erode, as more flooding becomes the norm, it's irrelevant. Your $1 million properties on the beach, yeah, they can just buy a new mansion. Sure, like I said, it might buy them time. It might buy them time, but it might buy them time. But I think it will come for all, regardless. They might be able to, have the resources to move and have the resources to just get themselves out. But I think it will, in the end, come for them too. What's going to happen when, despite all their money, despite all their resources, what's going to happen when they can't get food because we don't have the ability to grow food? What happens when we don't have the ability to get water in the same way? How much can they keep that up? How long can they keep that up? I need to finish my coffee. Oh, true. True. Do you play strings? Sometimes. Hmm. Ah. Colorado radio host who urged boycott of vaccines died of COVID. I mean, how many of these stories do we need? How many of these stories do we need? Bob Enyart, a right-wing radio talk host in Colorado who urged people to boycott the vaccines for COVID, has died of COVID-19. How many people has this guy influenced to boycott the vaccine? How many people? And how many of these radio hosts need to pass away before the before reality hits? How many of these stories do we need to read? I mean, I'm going to continue bringing this up, you know? How many of these stories is it going to take for people to realize, you know, hey, it's not that big a deal. Okay? It's free. Did you see about the school district that gave up on quarantining and contact tracing? Yikes. Union County School District. Yikes. I mean, it is frustrating and I understand the exasperation. Yeah, that's exactly it. Dying to own the libs. How many more of these stories? And even furthermore, how many, which is even sadder, how many stories are we going to have to go through of people who have absolutely no COVID-related incidents, nothing to do with COVID, unable to get care because there's no beds? How many of those stories do we have to go through? It really shows your privilege on display when your main concern is boycotting a pizza cloth on your face. Yeah, I mean, like, either way, like, it doesn't care whether or not you feel. It doesn't care whether or not you're privileged. COVID can get you. Too many cases to stay open. It's the only option. If they don't want to go back to remote learning, they should have just gone remote. Yeah, I mean, if it's like that, they should have gone to remote. It's a weird way of turning Florida blue. Well, I know that previously I saw that the approval ratings for DeSantis is tanking because of his mismanagement of COVID. Bob Earnot was one of the smartest and without question the wisest person I've known, all while being exceedingly kind and humble, and always willing to listen and discuss anything you wanted. Except this guy also mocked people who died of AIDS. He has also called for women who've had abortions to face the death penalty. That's a far cry from being kind and humble. And clearly not wise or smart. Nonetheless, my point is, these right-wing radio hosts who continue to tell people not to do X, Y, or Z, who are urging people to boycott something so easy, so available, free. and end up dying. I mean, how like, is this really logical to continue to listen to these people? And I urge people who may have some skepticism to think about that. Just think about it. Just think about it. Let me link this. Jesus. Just think about it, right? I saw this come up in my feed, and I thought this was interesting. Let's see what they say.
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support this channel and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
Big news on Rihanna, the superstar singer and entrepreneur gaining a new title, billionaire. Chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis joins us with more on the talented
Yeah, I don't know.
media mogul's incredible journey. Good morning, Rebecca.
Robin, yeah, this is a great story, a fun one. Women entrepreneurs and founders, business leaders, they are moguls, they are creating businesses, they are disrupting industries, and Rihanna is among them. She can now add billionaire to the top of her titles list.
Here in the United States, we'll often hear stories like these. It's no secret that Americans love to hear about billionaires. You'll find them everywhere. They're on the news, have their own TV shows, movies, and even make their way into elected office. Specifically, we consistently give massive audiences to self-made billionaires. The people who, unlike the aristocrats and monarchs of yore, didn't simply inherit their wealth. In this episode, we're talking about the obsession with so-called self-made billionaires, how misleading that term can be, and everything wrong with the myth of the self-made person. At the heart of every favorable depiction of a billionaire is this idea that they have earned their success and their wealth. The most compelling stories are those of billionaires who, through sheer hard work and grit, so we're told, have conquered the American dream and made a better life for themselves, those around them, and our society as a whole. But there are
no support system, no support system whatsoever. Nothing. It just happened. They just worked 10,000 times harder than you. That's it.
Number of reasons this is simply incorrect. We'll get to exactly how this idea is wrong in a second. But first, we should talk about why the myth of self-made billionaires is such a problem. For starters, vanishingly few people ever become billionaires. In the US, it's around 600 people, or 0.0002% of the population.
And out of those, like, the idea that these all of these folks just like worked, bootstraps or whatever, and just became these billionaires. I mean, just logically think about it. Like, that doesn't even make sense. It's very, 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 very rare. And I could probably count the amount of stories, the amount of billionaires in my hand that actually came from like nothing, and they just happened to reach stardom through music or something like that. But yeah, personally, I don't like hearing about people who have exploited workers to become billionaire. Yeah, and that's how you get there. I like. Yeah, this is a giant meme, essentially.
Perversely, however, the myth of the self-made billionaire tries to trick you into believing that anybody, yes, even you, dear viewer, could one day be just like them. After all, if they can do it, so can you. You already know how they attempt to sell this falsehood. It's always so incredibly simple. They tell you they started from nothing, that they were once just like you. They too had a 9-to-5 job that they hated. They too had trouble paying their bills. But instead of complaining, they just worked harder. And eventually, after 100-hour work weeks, they were able to lift themselves up by their bootstraps and just look at them now. Wow. Here's where the problems start. If they can successfully convince you that 1, they have earned their wealth, and 2, that you can do it too,
then
they can use those 2 assumptions to convince you of some far more nefarious things. For starters, they can convince you to act against your own self-interest and the interest of the vast majority of Americans. The most obvious example of this is making it seem like it would be better for everyone if billionaires paid less in taxes. If we just got the government out of the way of these people who have proven to us that they are visionaries, that they alone know how to manage money. To be clear, the ultra-rich already have a good way of avoiding taxes. You can see exactly how they do it in our video How Billionaires Pay Less in Taxes Than You. But of course that doesn't matter, since they'll always try to lower that number further and further. The more they do, the less money goes towards things that actually affect your day-to-day life. Roads, public services, healthcare, education. The more they keep of the wealth they have no intention of spending in the first place, the worse off we all are. They'll convince you that that might be you someday, that when you're in their shoes, you'll want the same thing. After all, what's the government ever done for you? We'll get to just how much it's done for them. But
get this extremely high-tech 3000.
What? Oh.
First, let's get back to the self-made story. In some cases, that story is simply a blatant lie. Take Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. The last decade's favorite billionaire duo loves to weave a compelling story of their 100% American-made success. Jeff Bezos likes to tell this story of a young guy who built a strong work ethic at his McDonald's job. He loves to
Except that's... They're leaving out the very, very, very convenient part of getting massive support from his parents. To the tune of hundreds of thousands.
emphasize how it was his hard work that eventually landed him a spot at Princeton, then on Wall Street, and finally pushed him to one day risk it all on the crazy idea of selling books on the internet. His story reaches a dramatic pause when he starts Amazon out of a garage with nothing but a dream, and it resumes satisfyingly when his company becomes the internet giant it is today. Elon Musk tells a very similar story, that of an industrious kid bullied for being too nerdy and into science fiction, who climbed out of adversity and overcame the all-too-common American hurdles of student loan debt and people not believing in him with the sheer ingenuity of his entrepreneurship.
Except...
These stories are, of course, embellished, and while individual elements of them may not be false, the overall image they're trying to sell you is a lie. Because it wasn't the novelty of Amazon alone that catapulted it to the center of the internet, so much as the absurd head start that an initial $300,000 investment that Jeff's parents gave him.
Right,
and
the hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's exactly what I was referring to, because Amazon was about to go bust. Amazon was about to not make it, and you know, all you need is just a small loan of a couple of $100,000s, and there you go. Easy. Just have your parents give you $300,000. What? You don't have parents that can just loan you $300,000? No? Oh man, it's so depressing. You see, people slob their like there's some kind of hardworking geniuses and anyone can do it. Yeah.
Musk likes to play up his version of the everyman story too. His family is most infamously known for his father's ownership of a lucrative emerald mine and role as a property developer in apartheid South Africa.
Right.
These people didn't start from nothing. It wasn't just hard work. Billionaires never get there alone. They get there in any combination of three ways. 1. Family wealth and privilege. 2. Labor exploitation. And 3. Government help.
It's trifecta. To be a billionaire, to be that wealthy, you need basically all those three things to come together, where A, you have a enormous head start, enormous ability to have capital. 2, the willingness to step over, exploit, and squeeze workers. And 3, lobby government to change the rules and to give you freebies and to make sure that you continue that advantage.
Let's start with number 1. Family wealth and privilege explains the success of a lot of the billionaires that sit at the top of our social hierarchy. We've already seen how much of a role family wealth played in the success of even the quote self-made celebrity billionaires like Musk and Bezos. So it should come as no surprise that the great majority of billionaires have similarly favorable advantages. The racial and gender makeup of the billionaire class is not an accident. It is no surprise then that the people who face the fewest societal hurdles, white men, overwhelmingly dominate the Forbes rankings, while women and people from racial minority groups only make up a fraction. But privilege doesn't explain every single billionaire's climb to the top. Exploitation, however, does. What do we mean when we say exploitation? Those familiar with Marxist literature will already know that exploitation is the expropriation of surplus value from labor by capital. Okay, but what does that mean? It's actually very simple. According to Marx, society is divided into two classes: the owner class, the bourgeoisie, and the working class, the proletariat. I promise I'll make this quick. The owner class, people
Amazon
who own
does own
businesses,
Twitch.
factories, farms, and so on, offer a deal to the working class. Work or starve. As you already know,
Wow. I'm so glad we have these choices. Yes, that's right. Lobby government, we eliminate lobbying, we eliminate lobbying, we eliminate 40% of our problems as a whole. I'm not I'm not 100% against it. I think that lobbying should either be incredibly curtailed, incredibly regulated, or simply just done away with. Did you see that small business owner on TikTok who pays all her employees the same as herself? Nice. Also, there's no such thing as self-made. I don't care who you are, how hard of a worker you are, you will never ever be. No one gets to where they are without some sort of leg up from others. True, that's a great point. Even me even me here. Even me had the privilege of having a family that provided me a roof. I never needed anything. I was provided a roof while I went to college for that moment. Even myself. I mean, my parents aren't rich or anything, but I definitely didn't need anything. And because of that, I was more comfortable in the sense that I had the wiggle room that some people don't. Do you think lobbying isn't 100% bad? I think that there could also be an argument for, well, do we want to cut the ability of labor unions to not be able to lobby? So it's like, if you mean that we can't or shouldn't have a undue influence from these mega corporations on our politics, then yeah, I agree with you. It should be curtailed. I don't think that all of these massive companies should be able to outvoice the people. If that's what you mean, then yeah, I think we're in agreement.
no, just about every single one of us takes that deal. So, what do the owner class say? They say that for X amount of hours worked, workers will be paid Y amount of money. In order for that deal to be profitable for the owner class, they need to pay workers less money than the value they actually produce.
I like that idea, Jared.
That difference is what Marx calls surplus value. The money that you make for the company will always be more than the money the business puts back into your hands in the form of a paycheck. Otherwise, it has no money to give the people who own the company, the stakeholders, who may never have even stepped foot on the premises. If you want an idea of just how much value business owners steal from their workers, just look at this Ohio pizza shop, where for one day the owner decided not to siphon off that surplus value and instead put it back into the hands of the workers. The result? Employees made $78 an hour. That's the Marxist definition of exploitation, and every single capitalist business in the world relies on it, whether they want to or not.
Whoa.
Examples, of course, are those we see with billionaires' companies, in which figureheads who no longer work on or only ever held stock in the company walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But even with the more relaxed definition of exploitation, we see this kind of behavior playing a massive role in billionaires' wealth. You may have recently heard of exploitation occurring in newly minted billionaire Rihanna's Fenty Beauty factories, or Beyoncé's Ivy Park sweatshops. It's immediately—
Yeah, I mean, like, even $400,000. I mean, I've never seen that amount ever. I would probably never see that. I would probably never see that. That's wild. And your workers would still have a great cushion for themselves. I mean, that's what they deserve. They're the ones who brought you here.
obvious to us how sweatshop labor is clearly exploitative when workers, often children, make mere cents for each grueling hour spent in unsafe conditions. Compare that to the billionaire status of those at the top, and it's impossible not to see something deeply wrong and exploitative in the working arrangements they have created. While Rihanna and Beyoncé might be the face of the club this week, they are no more or less culpable than their mega-wealthy peers, those whose less glamorous companies manage to avoid the spotlight. Once again, how does this kind of behavior make a person self-made? That brings us to point number 3, government help. Here, the conservative and libertarian views of the world's billionaires are the most evidently hypocritical. Elon Musk is probably one of the biggest offenders, so let's come back to him for a second. Musk often talks about the government in very disfavorable terms. He regularly decries government regulation, does everything he can to avoid taxation, and fiercely defends the belief that markets should be free. That said, the billionaires' companies, SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City, would have no hope of existing without the government's absurd $4.9 billion in loans and tax breaks. We're using Musk as a flagrant example here. But the nature of our current economy is that throughout the entirety of the chain of production, government subsidies are granted from public money only for the profits to be privatized by people who hoard wealth at a level we haven't seen since the Gilded Age. Pharmaceutical research is another classic example of this phenomenon, where large amounts of government funds produce the innovations needed for life-saving medication, only to eventually be appropriated by the private sector, where profits stay squarely within the hands of a few executives who jack up prices and strand countless Americans without access to the healthcare they need. This is not the vision free market proponents are selling us, where their ludicrous profits are justified by all the risks that innovation entails. In reality, they benefit from the largest public money safety nets in our society. Billionaires receive the government help most analogous to socialism of anyone, but fiercely get in the way of the rest of us enjoying the same privileges so that they can pocket more money than entire nations. No billionaire has ever gotten to their status by ethical means, and to revere them as icons of self-made success is to give them a pass for their selfish, parasitic behavior. We can dream of success without them. We can achieve greatness without them. We can let go of the myth of self-made billionaires. Imagine for a moment a world without billionaires. Imagine that world where you could actually get the full value of your work, like those pizza shop workers with their $78 an hour wage. How much less stressful would your life become? How much more pleasant and fair would it all be were it not for someone at the top hoarding far more than their share? Hundreds of millions of lives would be improved in an instant. At the end of the day, we produce enough for everyone. Let's stop pretending it makes sense for so much of it to be in the hands of so few people. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. When I decided to make the shift from
chill on your time. I do love Linux, not Windows 11. Yeah, I used to run a lot of Linux, but I have to run Windows here. Or Mac, which I okay, so I think we have this one.
Of course, ran for president. He developed quite a following, although he didn't really perform in the election itself. So Andrew Yang, of course, ran for president. He developed quite a following, although he didn't.
I want to know what the heck Yang is up to. Let's see.
Really perform in the election itself, in the primary election when he ran for president. But there were a number of strong Yang supporters online. I thought he was an interesting character because there's a number of policies he championed that were even, one could argue, to the left of Bernie. Like when he said he wanted to decriminalize all drugs, not just legalize weed.
Oh yeah. Hey, he had like this one position. Boom, to the left of Bernie.
I thought that was a brave stand, and I really commend him for that. I liked how aggressive he advocated for UBI. Now, even though he had those moments of like, damn, he's freaking it on specific policies, there were always facepalm-worthy moments, of course. So one of them was, there was a red flag, was, yeah, he's actually not for a $15 minimum wage. I totally disagree with him on that. And he always had cringe takes on foreign policy, specifically on Israel-Palestine. Now, when he ran for mayor of New York, it got even worse. He had terrible things he said about BDS, terrible things he said about Israel and Palestine. And you just got the sense, especially when he was running for mayor of New York, he was listening too much to the official advisors. And he hired a lot of people who I think previously worked on like Bloomberg's campaign or something. So really the worst people in the world, the dumbest people in the world, overpaid consultants who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but he brought them on. And you got the sense he started trying to play the game because he was viewed as the front runner, and the poll showed he was the front runner. So now he's like, now I got to do everything right and proper. And then he ran his campaign into the ground. And I mean, really flamed out. So we had him on Crystal Kyle and Friends. And we were very on the policies he's good on. We gave him the credit he deserved. Mainstream media really did treat him unfairly as well, especially back when he ran for president. But then on the policies where he's bad, we really pressed him. Well, now Andrew Yang is doing something new. Take a look at this. So this is from Politico. They say Andrew Yang to launch a third party. Presidential candidate turned New York City mayoral hopeful is no longer identifying as a Democrat. So, what's my prediction on this third party? This is not going to take a genius to see. This thing is going to crash and burn in a phenomenal way. And this is coming from somebody, I like Andrew personally, I do. Like I said, I think he took a lot of brave stands on specific policies. But in other ways, he's atrocious. On Israel-Palestine, he's atrocious. And
yeah, it didn't work properly on the desktop version. Maybe I need to refresh it later. Yang had initial interest, but yeah, UBI was an interesting idea. As soon as he proposed this, UBI would replace welfare. That was the beginning of the end. Yeah, that was so like... Big L. Hey, spread it forward.
There's not enough there to build a party. And you guys know my take on third parties in general when it comes to the way our system works in the US. Unless you put into place ranked choice voting first, this is all a waste of time. Whether it's Andrew Yang launching a third party, whether if Bernie launched a third party. If you don't change the way our system works to ranked choice voting, you're literally just doing self-disenfranchisement. Because all that's going to happen is even a third party that does every single thing right in every imaginable way is only going to get, in a presidential election, like 10% of the vote. You can't win a presidential election on 10% of the vote. You just can't do it. You can't do it. So ultimately what you're saying is, let's start this thing to not win. I don't do that. I play to win. I don't like moral victory bullshit things. Like, oh, we built something quickly. Okay, but you didn't win. And what was the other results of, what else happened? What was the backlash effect as a result of what you guys did here? Now, you could tell me, Kyle, it's really a 50-year project to build a third party. Fair enough. That probably is true. Maybe if you did everything exactly right within 50 years, you can get something accomplished on that front. We don't have 50 years to wait. We just don't. So I always found it weird when people who in every respect in their lives are hardcore realists. Hey, I'm a truth teller. I care about the facts. I care about reality. And, I don't have any magical beliefs. But on this front, when it comes to third-party politics, people just have very magical beliefs. They think some sort of miracle can be pulled off, and all of a sudden you could have, third-party presidential candidate or an independent presidential candidate.
Yeah, so I think that I think that this is enough for me to be able to understand where this is going. I agree that, like, I don't think that the third party that he's trying to start is going to get anywhere. And I think that, maybe it will end up doing harm. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't care about optics, or he just likes to see results and wins. Yeah, but sometimes he does have a bit, sometimes he has pretty cringe takes. But here, I think that starting a third party, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. I just found it interesting, but I think that that's good enough. Yeah, I don't think that's going to get very far.
About the price of a cup of coffee. Okay, well, the largest tier is about the price. If you like the work I do, consider supporting me on Patreon for about the price of a cup of coffee. Okay, well, the largest tier is about the price of a Starbucks Frappuccino. Maybe even less, depends on your Frappuccino. And you will basically be paying for my endless supply of news subscriptions that I've accumulated over me doing this climate recap, and also buying new equipment that sometimes, because things fail. And in exchange, of course, you will get early access to my deep dives, and you'll be able to vote on deep dive topics and also hear a bit more about me. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go ahead and click the link below to check out my Patreon. Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckosphere, where we talk about climate change news and solutions. You have entered the weekly climate recap, where we look into what is being done to prepare for and reduce the impacts of climate change. Notice that I did not say to adapt and mitigate, because that is climate change jargon. We'll get more into that at the end of the video.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, today we are going to talk about the climate news from September 2nd to 9th. If you see me looking down this direction, my iPad is here.
That's right.
I guess I'll try to keep it higher up so you can see it's here. And that is because I need to read off of it. Actually, I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Sorry, it makes the lighting weird. But anyways, let's get right into the news. A report by DNV concludes that we have basically missed our opportunity to use COVID as a jumping off point to majorly reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. Quote, from an energy transition perspective, the pandemic has been a lost opportunity. Recovery packages have largely focused on protecting rather than transforming existing industries. Sad, but honestly not that surprising if you follow this channel. Their prediction kind of represents a business as usual and is not even close to hitting the Paris Climate Agreement. Basically, we need to make a lot of changes so that we can kind of prove their their projection wrong. We have to. The National Interagency Fire Center predicts above potential for wildfires in the northwestern U.S. this September, and this does include Hawaii. So if you live in those parts, I do recommend going ahead and getting an emergency kit and making an emergency plan to prep. An article by Gizmodo found that the utility company Entergy, which owns infrastructure that fell into the Mississippi River after Hurricane Ida, is causing basically New Orleans to have major blackouts. Well, that company basically has known that their infrastructure would not hold up to extreme weather events that were being worsened by climate change, but chose to do nothing. Entergy has known for decades, including longer than almost any of the general public who are suffering through Ida and its aftermath, that burning fossil fuels causes climate change, that climate change causes extreme weather, and that these effects would create vulnerabilities for the electric grid.
Yeah, this is like further convincing me of the idea that like all these energy companies and infrastructure have no business being in private hands. Sorry.
Despite that knowledge, Entergy has used deception, bullying, and political power only available to monopolies to continue burning fossil fuels and to delay or kill efforts that might have made its customers become more resilient to climate change. Entergy announced that it plans to hit net zero by 2050, but since then has increased its natural gas supply. They also decreased the effectiveness of their plan that would have brought excess energy created by community solar onto the grid. And allegedly, they've even hired actors to show up to a 2018 city council meeting to support a new gas plant in New Orleans.
Wow.
Honestly, this is all really reminding me what is kind of happening right now with SoCal Energy in Southern California. I think Gizmodo put it right when they basically said that while we've been trying to hold fossil fuel companies accountable for lying, we also need to scrutinize utility companies for their inaction too. Meanwhile, the government has already authorized the U.S.'s emergency oil reserve to loan 1.5 million barrels of crude oil to an ExxonMobil refinery in Louisiana to relieve fossil fuel disruptions from the hurricane, helping fossil fuel companies quickly get back on their feet. And also for those who need to access fuel to be able to access it too. Nearly 2,000 chemical spills and other similar things coming from petrochemical and fossil fuel sites and connected to the hurricane have been reported in Louisiana. 350 of those oil spills are in the Gulf of Mexico. There is also currently an oil spill 2 miles off the coast, which seems to have come from abandoned pipelines. Fossil fuel companies, clean up your shit.
That would require them spending money. They don't care. Period. They don't care. There was a leak, I don't know if this was after Ida or before Ida, but there's a leak that was going on and nobody's taking responsibility. Everyone's like, oh, well, that's not my pipeline. That's not my pipeline. And everyone's kind of, closing ranks to say, oh, well, it's not me. It's not me. It's not me. It's not me. You know what? Unbelievably frustrating. Yes, exactly.
The process of shutting down factories, like what had to be done before Hurricane Ida hit, can significantly add to air pollution in the areas surrounding because it usually involves flaring, which is basically when companies burn off methane and other chemicals, and in this case, release black carbon. The UK is investing $1.2 billion for public and private investments in clean energy projects in India. The countries also launched the Climate Finance Leadership Initiative, or CF... My light just died. Okay, we're back. Now I'm using a lamp over there. Honestly, kind of looks about the same. What do you guys think? So, the UK is investing $1.2 billion for public and private investment in clean energy projects in India. The countries have also launched the Climate Finance Leadership Initiative, or CFLI, India Partnership. This will help mobilize private capital to sustainable infrastructure in India.
Okay,
The
what does that mean?
CFLI will also be chaired by Michael Bloomberg, UN Special Envoy.
Oof. Yeah, that. About IPCC, happy hump day. What is happy about the IPCC? Nothing. It's just happy Wednesday. I live in Kansas, and there's been a huge protest outside a fraternity house due to rape accusations. We've never seen our community stand up to this degree before. Wow. Are they standing up for Are they standing up for the victim? Am I getting that right?
On climate ambition and solutions. I forgot he was that. Disparity in vaccine rollout might impact attendance of the COP26 in November. The UK promised developing countries' delegates vaccines, but several have not received both doses, and there's only 2 months left to write this. Activists are worried that this will result in important voices for the global south being excluded from talks. After hearing these concerns, the UK said that it has now contacted every unvaccinated delegate to schedule appointments for them. But meanwhile, several activist organizations argue to push back on COP26 until vaccines can be properly rolled out. While several activist organizations argue to push back COP26 until vaccines can properly be rolled out, the most vulnerable countries to climate change are actually really wanting the whole thing to go forward. They have formed the Climate Vulnerability Forum, or CVF, an emergency pact to tackle rising temperatures. The CVF represents 1.2 billion people from Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the Pacific, and they insist on COP26 not being postponed despite inequity. They're still waiting for the $100 billion promised by developed countries to aid their green transitions from 2020 to 2024. It was already supposed to have started happening, but they still don't have the money for it. Desmog reports that the UK government appointed DLA Piper to be the COP26 legal service provider. The problem is, DLA Piper holds clients such as Shell, ExxonMobil, and BP, and has gotten them out of legal troubles during oil spills. They also defended Occidental Chemicals corporations for burying toxic waste in the Love Canal in 1989.
Should be all virtual, flying people over the world doesn't allow much commitment to cutting emissions. True, that's a great point.
When asked, about...
Yeah, like, wait, this can totally be done virtually, and then you don't have any excuse. Yeah. They want to build a pipeline to Mackinac Island here, and there's an indigenous protest because one oil spill and our Great Lakes are fucked. True.
This interesting choice of
thank you for the follow,
personnel.
Spaced On.
The COP26 spokesperson
Michigan
didn't
is surrounded by
address
fresh water,
the
but we drink
DLA
lead.
Piper's client list.
Well, there's a reason for
this,
that.
Quote:
the car companies and whatnot, they're the ones that need the clean water. Sorry, not the citizens, of course.
DLA Piper is providing value in kind legal services. There is no cost to COP26 or the taxpayer. All organizations supporting COP26 have met a robust criteria, which includes making net zero commitments with a credible action plan to achieve this, independently verified through a science-based targets initiative. They have also joined the Race to Zero, which requires them to set credible action plans for reducing their emissions in line with the goals of the Paris Agreement. A new study by the UN World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, finds that weather disasters are happening 4 to 5 times more often than they did in the 1970s, from 700 to 3,500 a year. Disasters are killing less people than they used to, but are causing 7 times more damage. Now, there are several factors that come into play when looking at these numbers. With a more globalized world, for example, weather disasters might be reported more than they used to. Improving warning systems and infrastructure might have decreased the fatality rate of these disasters, but doing things like moving into flood zones might have worsened the damage potential. And of course, climate change is making weather disasters stronger, longer, and more often. Death counts and economic damage will also vary from region to region based on how developed an area is.
Nestle also needs to pump out millions of gallons of water out of Michigan, apparently. True.
In the source section below.
Will somebody think of poor Nestle?
Last week, a Syrian power plant began leaking oil in the Mediterranean. The spill is now covered over 309 square miles, or about the area of New York City. This is the second spill in this region this year. This region represents 18% of all marine species in the world. People...
Irrelevant is ducking me. That sounds like a UN irrelevant problem. My Senator Peters is a centrist, but he wants to protect the Great Lakes from Nestle. 2018 to 2019, Nestle wanted to drain our Great Lakes for unimaginable profit. Yeah, they can go after themselves.
People are concerned Syria isn't doing enough to address this disaster, but they also might not be capable of doing enough with there being COVID shutdowns, war, depreciation of its currency, and economic crisis. Quote, the government only sent teams with sponges and water hoses. They do not have the capacity to deal with this. You cannot clean the...
I remember this. Okay, now it's coming back to me. Jesus. I would like convicted to having... Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's kind of... I just think that obviously there should be consequences for this. I just don't like, I don't know. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like, torture.
The sea with sponges. Officials from Cyprus, Turkey, and Israel are monitoring their shores for contamination. The finance minister of Iraq and the International Energy Agency chief urged the global oil cartel OPEC to move towards...
That's a great phrasing. Oil cartel. Yeah, I like that. I do think that people do need to stand up against rape. Absolutely, 100%.
Or OPEC. OPEC. Anyways, to move towards renewable energy in a recent OPEC meeting. Iraq is one of the founding members of the 13-country group. The two warned that the current market volatility the group is seeing from the pandemic is just a taste of what they're going to see with climate change. Centralist Democrat Joe Manchin from West Virginia has requested a pause on the infrastructure package.
Conservative.
Feeling uncomfortable about the price tag and the timing.
Yeah. Imagine thinking about the quote price tag and the timing, where the price tag and the timing of like the damage that climate change is going to bring. Is going to be way more than that. Yeah, so we all die, but they die with more money. People are going to lose sanity slowly and destroy this platform. I don't know what that means. I don't know. You would think at the point somebody decided, I know, we can build pipelines to transport oil directly over our fresh water supply. Somebody would have said, well, maybe we should find other energy sources. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, even from way back then, there was a lot of protests for these pipelines, mostly from like indigenous folks, and they just don't give a damn. They just don't care. They unironically just don't care. That's it. They just don't care. If it interrupts a penny a penny of their profits. They don't care.
Yes, because after a hurricane, the last thing we need is help with infrastructure. The Democrats have a goal of finishing this bill by the end of September, so I will keep you posted on how this goes. The EPA released a new report that looks into environmental justice element of climate change. They looked at 6 types of climate impacts among 4 socially vulnerable groups based on income, education, race and ethnicity, and age. The impacts include air quality and health, extreme temperature and health, extreme temperature and labor, coastal flooding and traffic, coastal flooding and property, and inland flooding and property. The report found that Black people are projected to face higher effects of climate change for all 6 impacts compared to other demographic groups. With 2 degrees Celsius of warming, Black people are 40% more likely to currently live in areas with the highest projected increase in extreme temperature-related deaths. The EPA director had this to say about the findings. Quote, "This report punctuates the urgency of equitable action on climate change. With this level of science and data, we can more effectively center the EPA's mission on achieving environmental justice for all." You can read more about their study by clicking on the link in the source section below.
Well, yeah. Lots of stuff to be infuriated about. Well, it's not just Republicans, but they say that nuclear is, quote, clean because it doesn't technically emit anything. However, I think the biggest problem is we can't get these things on board fast enough versus, like, you know, solar, wind, and geothermal and all these other renewables are much cheaper and faster to get on board or online faster. The point is it's a matter of time constraints. I mean, if we, in the meantime, buy ourselves enough time to get to fusion, then we might have a great solution. But, you know, Chevron bleeds $10 billion for lower carbon energy, but it includes natural gas and away. And Chevron profits last year, billions. Climate change. The world now sees twice as many days over 50 degrees Celsius. The number of extremely hot days every year when the temperature reaches 50 degrees Celsius has doubled since the 1980s. A global BBC analysis had found they also now happen in more areas of the world than before, presenting unprecedented challenges to human health and how we live. The total number of days above 50 degrees Celsius, which, may I remind you, is 122 degrees Fahrenheit, has increased in each decade since 1980. On average, between 1980 and 2009, temperatures that passed 50 degrees Celsius about 14 days. The number rose to 26 days a year between 2010 to 2019. In the same period, temperatures of 45 degrees and above occurred on an average of an extra 2 weeks a year. The increase can be 100% attributed to burning of fossil fuels, says Dr. Friedrich Otto, Associate Director of the Environmental Change Institute at University of Oxford. Yeah. As the world warms, extreme temperatures become more likely. High heat can be deadly for humans and nature and cause major problems to buildings, roads, and power systems. Temperatures of 50 degrees Celsius happen predominantly in the Middle East and Gulf regions. After record-breaking temperatures of 48.8 degrees Celsius in Italy, 49.6 degrees Celsius in Canada this summer, scientists have warned that days over 50 degrees Celsius will happen elsewhere unless we cut fossil fuel emissions. We need to act quickly. The faster we cut our emissions, the better off we'll all be. True. That's it. That's plain and simple. That's it. Right here. That's 122 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. Yep. I want no new reactors, but refit the old ones to transmute the long-lived nuclear waste into shorter-lived waste, and then shut it down. I mean, like, if it's already online and it's upkept. The maintenance is upkept, and it's pretty good. I don't think that there's any like reason to shut it down. But I think that the problem is the time constraints that we have to build new nuclear plants are way too long. It's just cheaper and quicker to rely on things like solar, wind, geothermal, hydroelectric. I mean, these things can probably be put online quicker. However, and these things may buy us enough time to get to fusion, which then would be interesting if we can get to it. Nuclear feels like a distraction. Yeah, I mean, if it's already like there, I don't think it needs to be like shut down necessarily, but I think there are faster and cheaper ways of getting renewables. I think the point is like we need to get off fossil fuels quickly, and we need to get off fossil fuels quickly, and I think that the cheapest and fastest way of doing it would be solar. The next would be wind. The next would be wind. Yeah, so this should ring a numerous amount of alarm bells. As we've discussed earlier, the days of extreme heat waves are just going to be the new norm. And of course, as it progresses, if we continue the business as usual, as we continue to do business as usual, these things will become worse and worse and worse and worse. $250,000 without power as Tropical Storm Nicholas soaks Texas and Louisiana. Or I should say, hurricane or tropical storm. Nearly 250,000 customers in Texas and Louisiana were without power Tuesday evening after the storm called Nicholas made landfall overnight, threatening parts of the Gulf Coast with up to 20 inches of rain. This is right after it got hit by a massive hurricane, Ida. Nicholas strengthened to a Category 1 before making landfall overnight in the eastern part of Texas' Matagorda Peninsula with 75 miles an hour wind, according to the National Hurricane Center at 7 p.m. Central Time Tuesday. The storm had weakened to a tropical depression and was located 25 miles west of Port Arthur, Texas, with 35 mile per hour winds. So far, the storm has produced a 6-foot surge in Clear Lake, Texas, 14 inches of rain in Galveston, and potential to cause life-threatening flash floods in the deep south over the next few days. Yeah. Houston School District, the state's largest as well, they canceled classes for Tuesday. The weather threat is also closed multiple COVID-19 testing and vaccination sites in Houston and Corpus Christi, and forced cancellation of Harry Styles' concert. Well, okay, scheduled for Monday evening. The storm will continue to bring heavy rain in the area and into the same area of the state that was hit hard by Hurricane Harvey in 2017, the storm that made landfall into the middle of Texas coast and then stalled for 4 days, dropping more than 60 inches of rain in part of southeast Texas. Harvey was blamed for at least 68 deaths, including 36 in the Houston area. TLDR, this is a new norm. Hey Eric, how's it going? Just one storm right after the other, and it's pretty sad and frustrating. Pretty sad and frustrating. Alright, folks, I'm going to take a quick break and a quick second to show for myself. I'm feeling pretty doomer today. Well, I came to the right place if that's the case. Folks, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to follow. Don't forget to join us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, do the thing, do the YouTubes, do the Twitters, do the TikToks, Discord, all that awesome stuff. We have a great community. Please join us Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time for news and politics, and Saturdays for Saturday Catterdays. Kitty cat guaranteed every Saturday. I do appreciate all of your support. You guys are what makes this channel grow, and can't do it without you guys. That being said, I will be right back, and then we're going to get into it. Page 103, folks. Do the subs, biddies, and even a prime. Just a prime. Just a singular prime, folks. Just a singular prime. Oh, thank you. So tired. Sorry, folks. All right. We are back. Any folks who want to join us, we are back so that we are uninterrupted. Let's get into it. Page 103. Coastal and oceanic. Observed changes in marine heat waves over the 20th century in the region show an increase in their occurrence frequency, except along the southeast coast of New Zealand, an increase in duration per event, and the total number of marine heat waves days per decade, with the change being stronger in the Tasman Sea than elsewhere. The present day 1 in 100 estimated estimated time and wave length. Estimated time wavelength is between 0.5 to 2.5 meters around most of Australia except the northwestern coast in 1 to 100 years. Hmm. ETW. ETWL. I sound absolutely brainless to climate experts. My sisters of grounds gave me air plants with you can generate amount of fruit crops and dairy plants, less space and less water. I don't know how that would work. You weren't kidding? No, I was not. I'm trying to figure out what ETWL stands for. Ekaloo with the 50 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Alright, hold on, folks. I'm confused. I am confused, and it's bothering me. Will increase during invention per total amount of marine heat waves per decade, with the change being stronger in the Tasman Sea than elsewhere. The present day, 1 in 100 year, extreme total water level. Okay. That makes sense because the next thing was meters. Okay. Oh yeah, it's right here. Sorry about that. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear. Okay. The present day 1 in 100 estimated, oh, come on, I just forgot it again. Extreme total water level. Okay, extreme total water level. The present day 1 in 100 years extreme total water level is between 0.5 to 2.5 meters, which makes sense. Around most of the Australia except the northwestern coast, where 1 in 100 year extreme total water level can be as high as 6 meters to 7 meters. These are meters, folks. Needless to say, that's a lot. That's a lot. Multiply that by 3 and you get feet. Okay? Multiply that by 3 and you get the feet. Additional regional changes in Central and South America, besides those features described in this table, include increases in mean and extreme precipitation in southeastern South America since the 1960s, high confidence, decreasing trends in mean precipitation and increasing trends in agricultural and ecological drought are observed in northeastern South America, medium confidence. The intensity and frequency of the extreme precipitation and pluvial floods is projected to increase over southeastern South America, South America, North South America, South American monsoon, and northeastern South America, medium confidence for a 2 degrees Celsius global warming level and above. Increases of agricultural and ecological drought are projected in South America monsoon and South America, and fire weather is projected to increase over several regions: northern South America, South American monsoon, northeastern South America, and southwestern South America at confidence. In addition to the main changes summarized above and in this table, further details are given below. By the way, all the tables that it's referring to, it's all the way at the bottom. Founded Poggers, true. Yeah, I still can't tell. That's why I'm just moving on. Spread it forward. Observed and projected increases in mean temperature and a shift towards extreme heat extreme characteristics are broadly similar to the generic pattern described in these tables. Again, all of these tables are provided towards the very, very bottom. So if you check the links that I've put in chat for the IPCC report, page 103, all these tables that it's referencing to can be found at the very bottom, or you can also go to the actual report of 3,900 and something pages, and they have all of those things. They have all of those things there. Mean precipitation is projected to change in a dipole pattern with increases in northwestern and southeastern South America and decrease in northeastern and southwestern South America, high confidence, with further decreases in northern South America and South Central America, medium confidence. In northern South America and South Central America, aridity and agriculture and ecological droughts are increasing with medium confidence. Fire weather is projected to increase over southern Central America and southern South America with medium confidence. If it feels today I need to find a new wheelchair that perhaps lets me access my balcony. Gotcha. Well, I hope you can find it. So if it feels like I'm kind of like reading over the same things, and it sounds like I'm just repeating myself, it's because all of these trends seem to be very, very similar across the different areas of the world. Climate projections indicate an increase in mean wind speed and wind power potential over the Amazonian region, North South America, South American monsoon, northeastern South America, medium confidence. Snow and ice, glacier volume loss and permafrost thawing will likely to continue in the Andes Cordillera under all climate scenarios, causing important reductions in river flow and potentially high magnitude glacial lake outburst floods. Yikes. Coastal and oceanic. Around Central and South America, relative sea level has increased at a higher rate than GMSL, global mean sea level, in the South Atlantic and subtropical North Atlantic at a rate lower than GMSL in the East Pacific over the last 3 decades. The present day 1 in 100 years of extreme total water levels is highest in southern and southwestern South America's subregions, where it can be as large as 5 to 6 meters. Again, multiply that by 3 and you get the feet. 15 feet, and 6 times 3, 18 feet. Yes, and some of it, when it refers to Atlas, the interactive Atlas, that's what it's referring to. I will signal boost it again. Thank you, Darknet. You sound a little exhausted today. I am a little bit exhausted. If my voice sounds a bit dead, it's because it is. It's because it is, alright? I'm trying to keep up, I'm trying to keep that energy up, but... coastal and oceanic. Around Central and South America relative sea level. Oh yes. The present day 1 in 100 years extreme total water level is highest in the southern and southwestern South America subregions, where it can be as large as 5 to 6 meters. Satellite observations from 1984 to 2015 show shoreline retreat rates along the sandy coast of southern Central America, southeastern South America, and southern South America, while shoreline progradation rates have been observed in northwestern South America and North South America. Over the period of 1982 to 2016, the coastlines experienced at least one marine heat wave per year, and more along the Pacific coast and North Central America and the Atlantic coast of southeastern South America. Additional regional changes in Europe. Oh, so now we're moving on to Europe. Besides those features in this table, include observed increases in pluvial flooding in northern Europe, hydrological and agricultural ecological droughts in the Mediterranean, high confidence, which have been attributed to human contribution with high and medium confidence, respectively. Increased mean precipitation amounts at high latitudes in boreal winter and reduced summer precipitation in southern Europe are projected starting from a 2 degrees Celsius global warming level, high confidence. Aridity, agricultural and hydrological droughts, and fire weather conditions will increase in the Mediterranean region starting from 2 degrees Celsius global warming levels. High confidence. Alluvial flooding will increase everywhere with high confidence except for medium confidence in the Mediterranean. In Western and Central Europe, this also applies to river flooding starting from a 2 degrees Celsius global warming level. I think we saw an event illustrating this in Germany. Most periglacial processes in Northern Europe are projected to disappear by the end of the 21st century, even for a low warming scenario. Medium confidence. In addition to the main changes summarized above and in this table, further details are given below. And again, we're going over the different regions, this time in Europe. Heat and cold observed and projected increases in mean temperature and a shift towards heat extreme characteristics are broadly similar to the generic pattern described. Wet and dry, there's a medium confidence in annual mean precipitation in Northern Europe, West and Central Europe, and Eastern Europe has increased since the early 20th century, and high confidence for extreme precipitation. In the European Mediterranean, the magnitude and sign of observed land precipitation trends depend on time, period, and exact study region. Medium confidence. There is medium confidence that a river floods will decrease in Northern, Eastern, and Southern Europe for high warming levels. Wind. Mean wind speed land has decreased, medium confidence, but the role of human-induced climate change has not been established. There is high confidence that mean wind speeds will decrease in the Mediterranean areas, and medium confidence that such decreases in Northern Europe for global warming levels exceeding 2 degrees Celsius. The frequency of medicanes, what? I didn't even know this was a thing. Tropical-like cyclones in the Mediterranean hurricanes. I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, we learned something new today, folks. There is such a thing as a metacane. It's projected to decrease, medium confidence. Snow and ice. In the Alps, snow cover will decrease below elevations of 1,500 to 2,000 meters throughout the 21st century. High confidence. A reduction of glacier ice volume is projected in the European Alps and Scandinavia with high confidence and medium confidence for the timing and mass change rates. Coastal and oceanic. Over the last 3 decades, relative sea level has increased at a lower rate than the global mean sea level in the subpolar North Atlantic coast of Europe. The present day 1 in 100 years extreme total water level is between 0.5 and 1.5 meters in the Mediterranean basin, 2.5 to 5 meters in the western Atlantic European coast around the United Kingdom and along. Can you imagine 0.5 to 1.5 meters? 1.5 meters. Sorry, 2.5 to 5 meters. Yikes. Along the Baltic coast, along the Baltic Sea coast. Satellite-derived shoreline change estimates over 1984 to 2015 indicate shoreline retreats about 1.5 meters per year along the sandy coast of Central Europe, the Mediterranean, and more or less stable shorelines in Northern Europe. Over the period of 1982 to 2016, the coastlines of Europe has experienced on average of more than 2 marine heat waves per year, with the Eastern Mediterranean and Scandinavia experiencing 2.5 to 3 marine heat waves per year. North America. Additional changes in North America besides those features described here in this table include changes in North American wet and dry climate-induced drivers, which are largely organized by northeast more wet to southwest more dry. Pattern of mean precipitation change. Although heavy precipitation increase are widespread, high confidence. Increasing evaporative demand will expand agriculture and ecological drought. Again, this is just like a broken record. Across the board, it seems like we're seeing some pretty standard across the board, right? An increasing evaporative demand. Increasing evaporative demand will expand agricultural, ecological drought, and fire weather, particularly in summertime in Central North America, Western North America, North Central America for medium to high confidence. Severe windstorms, tropical cyclones, and dust storms in North America are shifting toward more extreme characteristics. Medium confidence, and both observation and projections point to strong changes in the seasonal and geographic range of snow and ice conditions in the coming decades. Very high confidence. General findings of relative sea level, coastal flooding, and erosions will not apply for areas with substantial land uplift around the Hudson Bay and southern Alaska. In addition to the changes above, further details are given below. Heat and cold. Observed and projected increases in mean temperature and a shift towards heat extreme characteristics are broadly similar to the generic pattern. Again, seems pretty standard across the planet. Across all regions, wet and dry annual precipitation increased over parts of eastern and central North America during the 1960 to 2015 high confidence and has decreased in parts of southwestern United States and northwestern Mexico medium confidence. River floods are projected to increase for all North American regions other than North Central America medium confidence. Agricultural and ecological drought increases have been observed in western North America. Yeah, we see that. We see that 100%. And aridity is projected to increase in southwestern United States and northern Central America with lower summer soil moisture across much of the continental interior. Medium confidence. Wind. Projections indicate a greater number of the most intense tropical storms. Indicates a greater number of the most intense tropical cyclones with slower translation speeds and higher rainfall potential for Mexico's Pacific Coast, the Gulf Coast, and the United States East Coast. Oh boy, we're already seeing this like in real time. I mean, did we not just see what happened in the Gulf back to back? Medium confidence, mean wind speed, and wind power potential are projected to decrease in western North America. High confidence with differences between global and regional models, lending low confidence elsewhere. Snow and ice. It is very likely that some high-latitude regions will experience an increase in winter snow water equivalent due to the snowfall increase prevailing over the warming trend. At sustained global warming levels between 3 degrees Celsius and 5 degrees Celsius, nearly all glacial mass in Western Canada, Western North America will disappear. So this is the worst on the worst end of the spectrum. 3 degrees to 5 degrees Celsius, nearly all glacial mass in Western Canada and Western North America will just disappear. Coastal and oceanic. Around North America's relative sea level has increased over the last 3 decades at a rate lower than global mean sea level in the subpolar North Atlantic and the East Pacific, while it has increased at a higher rate than global mean sea level in the subtropical North Atlantic. Observations indicate that episodic coastal flooding is increasing along many coastlines in North America. Shoreline retreat rates around 1 meter a year have been observed during 1984 to 2015 along sandy coasts of northwestern North America and northern Central America, while portions of the United States Gulf Coast have seen a retreat rate approaching 2.5 meters a year. Sandy shorelines along eastern North America and western North America have remained more or less stable during 1984 to 2014, but shoreline progression around a rate of around 0.5 meters a year has been observed in northeastern North America. Small islands. Additional regional changes in small islands besides those features described in this table include likely decrease in rainfall during boreal summer in the Caribbean and in some parts of the Pacific Islands poleward of 20 degrees latitude in both northern and southern hemispheres. These drying trends will likely to continue in the coming decades, but few more intense tropical cyclones are projected starting from a 2 degrees Celsius global warming level. Medium confidence. In addition to the main changes summarized above, and in this table, further details are given below. It is very likely that most small islands have warmed over the period of instrumental records, and continued temperature increases in the 21st century will further increase heat stress in these regions. Wet and dry. Observed and projected rainfall trends vary spatially across the small islands. Higher evapotranspiration under a warming climate can partially offset future increases or amplify future reductions in rainfall, resulting in increased aridity as well as more severe in agriculture and ecological drought in the small islands. Medium confidence. Wind. Global changes indicate that the small islands will face fewer but more intense tropical cyclones with spatial inconsistency and projections given poleward shifts in tropical cyclone tracks. Medium confidence. Coastal and oceanic. Continued relative sea level rise is very likely in the ocean around small islands and along with storm surges and waves, it will exacerbate coastal inundation with the potential to increase saltwater intrusion into aquifers and small islands. Shoreline retreat is projected along sandy coasts of most small islands, high confidence. Yeah, these islands are going to get absolutely wrecked because of climate change. Continued relative sea level rise. Oh yes. So polar. Go to the polar regions. It is virtually certain that surface warming in the Arctic will continue to be more pronounced than the global average warming over the 21st century. An intensification of the polar water cycle will increase mean precipitation, with precipitation intensity becoming stronger and more likely to be rainfall rather than snowfall. High confidence. Permafrost warming, loss of seasonal snow cover, and glacier melt will be widespread. High confidence. There's high confidence that both Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets have lost mass since 1992 and will continue to lose mass throughout the century under all emission scenarios. Relative sea level and coastal flooding are projected to increase in areas other than regions with substantial land uplift. Medium confidence. In addition to the main changes summarized above, further details are given below. Heat and cold changes in Antarctica show larger spatial variability, with very likely warming in the Antarctic Peninsula since the 1950s and no overall trend in East Antarctica. Less warming and weaker polar amplification are projected as very likely over the Antarctic than in the Arctic, with a weak polar amplification projected as very likely by the end of the 21st century. Wet and dry. Recent decades have seen a general decrease in Arctic aridity, high confidence, with increased moisture transport leading to higher precipitation, humidity, and stream flow, with a corresponding decrease in dry days. Antarctic precipitation showed a positive trend during the 20th century. The water cycle is projected to intensify in both polar regions, leading to high precipitation totals, and a shift to more heavy precipitation and a higher fraction of precipitation falling as rain. Yikes. In the Arctic, this will result in high river flood potential and earlier meltwater flooding, altering seasonal characteristics of flooding, high confidence, a lengthening of the fire season, medium confidence, an encroachment of fire regimes into tundra regions. High confidence are projected. Greenland just had their first recorded rainfall. Yes, I saw that. Oof. Yeah, but totally normal stuff happening. Wind, there's medium confidence in mean wind decrease over the Russian Arctic and Arctic Northeast North America, but low confidence of changing in other Arctic regions and Antarctica. Snow and ice, reductions in spring snow cover extent have occurred across the northern hemisphere since at least 1978. Very high confidence, permafrost warming and thawing have been widespread in the Arctic since the 1980s. High confidence, causing strong heterogeneity in surface conditions. There's high confidence in future glacier and ice sheet loss, permafrost warming, decreased permafrost extent, and decreasing seasonal duration of the extent of snow cover in the Arctic. Decline in seasonal ice coverage along the majority of the Arctic coastline in recent decades is projected to continue, contributing to an increase in coastal hazards, including open water storm surge, coastal erosion, and flooding. Coastal and oceanic. Higher sea levels contribute to high confidence for projected increases of Arctic coastal flooding and higher coastal erosion aided by sea loss. Medium confidence with lower confidence for those regions with substantial land uplift. Arctic Northeast, North America, and Greenland. The ocean. Oof. Yeah, it's upside down. This is not normal. Not normal at all. Not normal at all. Hold on, folks. Need more plant pollen, fern, and fungal spores and microbes everywhere. Hey, it's a chap. How's it going? Tried to fix my sleep pattern by pulling it under and fall asleep at a good 6 p.m. Woke up now at 11 p.m. Jesus. High concepts. I don't know what that means. Okay. All right. Let's continue now that I got my voice a little bit of a rest. Okay. I don't think that's the problem. The ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Indian Ocean, Western Equatorial Pacific Ocean, and Western Boundary Currents have warmed faster than the global average, very high confidence. With the largest changes in the frequency of marine heat waves projected in the Western Tropical Pacific and Arctic Ocean, the Pacific and Southern Ocean are projected to freshen, and the Atlantic to become more saline. Anthropogenic warming is very likely to further decrease ocean oxygen concentrations, and this deoxygenation is expected to persist for thousands of years. The Arctic sea ice loss are projected to continue, leading to practically ice-free Arctic in September by the end of the 21st century under high CO2 emission scenarios. High confidence. Ocean surface temperature: the Southern Ocean, Eastern Equatorial Pacific, and the North Atlantic Ocean have warmed more slowly than the global average or slightly cooled. Global warming of 2 degrees Celsius above 1850 to 1900 levels would result in the exceedance of numerous hazard thresholds for pathogens, seagrass and mangroves, kelp forests, rocky shores, and coral reefs, and other marine ecosystems. We need all of these in marine ecosystems. Yikes. Moderate increases in marine heat waves frequency are projected for mid-latitudes, and only small increases are projected for the Southern Ocean. Medium confidence under the SSP 5 8.5 scenario. Permanent marine heat waves more than 360 days a year projected to occur in 21st century in parts of the tropical ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and around 45 degrees south. However, the occurrence of such permanent marine heat waves can be largely avoided under SSP 1 to 2.6. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Lemon and honey. Yep. True. True's the chat. Ocean acidity. With the rising CO2 concentration, the ocean surface pH has declined globally over the past 4 decades. Virtually certain ocean salinity at the basin scale is very likely that the Pacific and Southern Ocean have freshened, while the Atlantic has become more saline. Dissolved oxygen. In recent decades, low oxygen zones in ocean ecosystems have expanded. Jesus. Sea ice. The Arctic perennial sea ice is being replaced by thin seasonal ice with earlier spring melt and delayed fall freeze-up. There's no clear trend in the Arctic sea ice area over the past few decades and low confidence in its future change. Some types of regions found in different continents face common climate challenges regardless of their location. These include biodiversity hotspots that will very likely see even more extreme heat waves, droughts, more extreme heat and droughts. Mountain areas where a projected raising and freezing level height will alter snow and ice conditions, high confidence, and tropical forests that are increasingly prone to fire weather, medium confidence. Biodiversity hotspots located around the world will face unique challenges in instigating drivers or climate initiative drivers. Wait, hold on. I forget the climate impact drivers. Climate impact drivers. Okay. Materials that are made and they're also sold and used about something stupid like 2% or less. Happens really fast if 2 people don't make. In some seem to be nature pure with the downside of lower birth weights, bad for capitalism, but I count that's a positive thing. Well, I don't know. Like I don't think that it's really weird. I don't think that that's like the problem. I think the point is very clear here. Face unique climate impact drivers, changes. Heat, drought, and length of dry season, wildfires, weather, sea surface temperature, and deoxygenation are relevant drivers to terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems that have marked increasing trends. Desert and semi-arid areas are strongly affected by climate impact drivers such as extreme heat, drought, and dust storms, with large-scale aridity trends contributing to expanding dry lands and in some regions. High confidence. Average warming. Shoot, I don't think we'll be able to get to that. Average warming in mountain areas vary with elevation, but the pattern is not globally uniform. Medium confidence. Extreme precipitation is projected to increase in major mountainous regions. Medium to high confidence, depending on location, potential cascading consequences of floods, landslides, lake outbursts in all scenarios. Medium confidence. Most tropical forests are challenged by a mix of emerging warming trends that are particularly large in comparison to historical variability. Medium confidence. Water cycle changes bring prolonged drought, longer dry seasons, and increased fire weather to many tropical forests. Yikes. Alright, so we're getting there. I believe we'll continue our journey as we get closer. As we get closer. This is 108. Cool, we're doing great. We're doing great. Folks, I do want to thank you guys for joining today. You guys are what makes this channel grow. If you guys enjoyed the content, don't forget to follow. Don't forget to follow. Join us on the Discord. Please make sure you hit that follow button. Do the YouTubes. Do the YouTubes. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Do all that awesome stuff. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you. Thank you, Darknet. Thank you, Spread It Forward. Thank you all for the massive support. Thank you, Ekaloo, for the 50 biddies. Thank you all for thank you, Chiberia Crab, for the subscription, and all the new follows. I appreciate it. Thank you for another great stream. Thank you. All right, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Alright, folks. Want a few peeps to raid? Wait. Are you live? As a chap. Oh, yeah, sure. Pick sure. Hit me up. Who should we raid? See if we can get a new one. Wake the Beast. Alright, well, let's see. Let's check them out, show them some support. Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go!